go. Welcome to the Portal podcast. Today I have a special guest tuning in from Estonia. His name is, I'm going to do this right now, Siim Sibrits.
Thank you for having me, Tommy. That's right.
No, thank you. So we've been talking here now for almost half an hour before, but could you introduce yourself to the crowd listening? Where do you live? What do you work with? What do you do when you're not working? Like, who is Siim?
Yeah, I come from a countryside. Well, I was grown up here, and I went to school to a little town in Estonia, which has like a population of 10,000 people. And after that, I graduated police school and went to work as a policeman. And I've been working as a policeman for now almost 10 years. Working in the second largest town of Estonia called Tartu, which has, 100,000 people living there. It's the second largest. We don't have many people living here in Estonia. So,
what was it, 1.3 million or something?
Something around 1.3 or 1.4, in between of those numbers. That's not much. And at first I was working as a patrol officer for almost 7 years. Mm-hmm. And after that, I had the chance to become a police instructor, which I am nowadays working as. In easier words, I would say I'm training policemen, and also those who voluntarily do police work. So we teach them police tactics and shooting and self-defense, and a lot of it has to do with physical education too. So my work is quite physical, and it doesn't bore me yet. It's not boring in any way.
But having a physical job, it kind of suits you, doesn't it? Because you like to move and stress that meat vehicle you're in.
Yeah, that's strange. I think one of the reasons why I started to go and study to become a police officer was the physical aspect. But actually, when you're working as a patrol officer, it has more to do with stress tolerance and being able to work in a routine environment and deal with other people's problems. It isn't that much as a physical job as I thought it would be, because most of the time you're driving around in a car, actually. You don't get many steps in a day when you don't have many calls. Yeah.
My view on what a police officer needs to, be and know. I have not a lot of friends, but I have some friends that works in Sweden as police officers, and a lot of people from the martial art community have switched to police officers for many reasons, I think. One of them is that they've been told that they should work as policemen because they are very calm and very, very humble and very, they're very secure in themselves and don't stress that much. So my take on requirements for being a police officer, of course, the physical requirements, but in some sense, you need to be thinking like a social worker. You need to be thinking like a priest almost. You need to be thinking like someone who really, really cares for and can communicate properly with people. So how does that match the reality that you are in?
That's actually totally true. About we also have a sentence. It goes like that a police officer needs to be a warrior, a priest,
yes,
psychologist,
yes,
everything in one person at different times.
Yeah,
like in a way you would say it's superhuman, but I wouldn't say we are superhuman. It's more like you have to be able to suppress your own feelings and emotions and problems in order to give back to the community or to serve others.
Yeah.
If you're not able to deal with your own problems, you're no help for others. either. So mostly it's a psychological nature, I think.
Yeah.
And just, as you said, like you have to have 2 feet on the ground all the time and see the world as it is without any real tinted sunglasses on.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you said you are not superhumans, but the requirements is kind of, you need to be a bit like a superhuman because it's such a, it's the same
That
as,
well,
yeah.
that's what we are striving for. But as police officers, as the community overall, we have people from different. We have so many different people that we do have like all kinds of. But as we are describing, it's the maybe the most wanted police officer in nature. But we do have like, I mean, we have like so many different kind of people, and they all have to work together. It's like a slice from the community overall.
Right. Yeah. It's the same as everywhere.
Yeah, true.
But so there's not like one typical personality type that you have around you, like.
No. Very different people. Yeah.
So
and
was that I'm backing here a bit in the history, but when did you decide, like, or realize that you wanted to be a police officer? Was that a childhood dream, or how did that,
No. I was in the end of my high school years, I think, when I was thinking about becoming one. Mm-hmm. And we had like 2 police officers come to the school, and they were like totally unmotivated. They told us that don't come to police. It was choking me at that time, because I was thinking like, yeah, I'm going to be this policeman. I'm going to stand out. I'm going to wear this uniform, and it's a badass job. And they were like, no, the salary is bad. You don't see beauty in life anymore. It's like, don't come, guys. So I had my choices. I had like, I think 4 or 5 choices. I wanted to become a mathematician. Physics was a strong part in my high school years, and policeman work was one, and as well as acting, actually.
Oh, interesting.
I was taking acting classes, and I was dancing in show dancing, and I was doing those artistic things too. But I started to I took the road to become a policeman. So you have to make choices in life. You don't have to put other things aside, but you have to choose a main road you want to go, and things will fall in place.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting detail about you. So you have this artistic dreams and strain in you, and you also have this badass person that does 1001 pull-ups and fight crime all day long. I like those kind of combinations in a person. That's yeah.
I think that the artistic part in myself comes from my family too. But it's more like it helps you to visualize things more and maybe fantasize a little bit more. And once you get to work, you really might become, as you said, an action figure yourself.
Yes.
You just have to work for it, and fantasizing and thinking about, contemplating about things is a big part. Has been a big part in my youth days too. You really want to become the superhero yourself, not just watch a movie or play a video game. That was something that's driving me onwards, and is still keeping me like going for it day in and day out.
We belong to the same generation, you and I. So can you mention a couple of your childhood heroes? And I'm going to start with mine. I had it depends on the age though. But MacGyver, did you see MacGyver?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I think he was one of the biggest.
Yes, man.
So, I had this MacGyver knife, a Swiss Army knife,
Yes.
and I was sometimes just holding it in my hands, and I was watching the TV show and thinking like, oh my God.
Was it a Victorinox?
Yeah.
Yes, the red one.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, the color was the same.
Yeah. MacGyver, and before that I had, Turtles, He-Man, all these things. But after that, older, I had like MacGyver was a huge one. But when it comes to more action, badass stars, Jean-Claude Van Damme, of course, was a huge
boxing movie.
Yes, he was a huge inspiration back then, and
I had Sylvester Stallone, like Rocky.
Yes. Yes.
Rocky was like crazy for me. I was 16 years old, already a guy in teenage years, and I was just watching Rocky movies and listening to Rocky soundtrack. I made the CD albums, printed out the pictures and everything, and
Yes.
I was like, just I had a boxing bag, self-made, although we didn't buy a real boxing bag. I was just sitting in the bag and thinking about Rocky and
Yes.
how he never gave up and his mentality, and that was just, I think it was a big part of my childhood years, growing up alone here in this countryside. Yeah.
It sounds like even though we were born on different places on this planet, our childhood is quite similar, I would say, because I had to walk like 1.5 hours over the woods to come to my closest friend. And that was an adventure every time, because it could, start to rain, or sometimes it became too dark and I had to, try to find myself way home. But that meant also spending a lot of time alone. And I had, my BB gun, trying to shoot small animals like birds and stuff like that. That was, and hitting the bag. I also had a bag. It was an old sack, a brown. Yes. And I had a bow and arrow, and I like to fish and all these things. And I think that's a good childhood to have.
It sounds quite similar, yeah. My closest friend was also through the woods, although not like 1.5 hours away, but for more like half hour away.
Yeah, but still.
When it got dark, it was like scary to go through the woods, and
yes,
you had to go, because when you didn't go through the woods, you had to walk like for an hour, circling the woods, and a lot of memories. And playing with stick guns, and as you said, fishing and shooting bows, making bows and shooting them, and playing warriors. And my dad made myself a sword, I think, and we just were doing battles, and it was a really nice way to have these childish years growing up, I think.
Right. So I live now in I live in a small town, couple of miles from where I grew up. But when I got my second child here now, I realized that life is short, and growing up in this small town is very different from growing up in the forest. So now the 1st of March, I'm actually moving back to my home. Not hometown, home forest, the area where I grew up. We bought a house there, so I'm going to try now to
back to the roots.
Yeah, give my kids the same.
Yeah,
it's not going to be the same for them, but not as rough. But they're gonna. I think it's good for them.
I'm totally with you. Yeah, it has been in my mind too that once I'll have children on my own, then I would like to raise them in the countryside if possible.
Yeah,
it feels like quiet, and then you can be happy here if you would like to.
Yes.
Without really seeing, you can still be in contact with the outer world, but you can escape so easily when you're living in a farm. You don't really have to listen or read the news daily. You really don't have to.
You
You
can
don't
live.
have to listen to the news every day talking about the coronavirus,
No,
for instance.
no,
Yeah.
it's a small bubble out there, and I think that's good. You know, it is. But is it same? I guess it's the same in Estonia. Like living in the countryside, also, it's. I assume you have the same situation with urbanization that the rest of like the
Yeah.
world. That it's getting harder and harder because it's become less jobs and like if I move out to the countryside, I also have to keep in mind that, for example, let's say something happens. If I need a person like you to come save me, like a police officer, that's going to take 40, 50 minutes.
That's true.
If I need medical assistance, it's going to take maybe 20, 25 minutes. If I need firefighters, 20, 25 minutes also. So it sets higher demands on you as a person also to be able to kind of take care of yourself. And, you know,
Yes. Mm.
I think I've been
That's so
thinking a
true.
bit about that at least. Like it's not super easy just to move out in a forest. Many people, they have
No.
this romantic view, like, yeah, we're going to buy this old house, 200 years old house, and, you know, fix it up a bit. And, you know, well,
The truth couldn't be further away, actually.
no, no.
We romanticize a lot about those things just looking at the pictures and the movies and everything.
Yes.
But
People think like, I'm going to buy this red flannel shirt and chop some wood and, you know, grow my own potatoes. And like, yeah, that is hard work, my friend. You know, you're not going to want to do that after you've been working for 8, 9 hours, you know.
you don't have time for those Instagram pictures if you're working.
No. But okay, I'm back a bit to your story there. Like, do you still have mandatory military service in your country? Was that a thing you did, or?
Yeah, we do. I mean, for a police officer nowadays, you don't have to go to the military service.
Okay.
But I had to. It was like 2012 when I went there. I went there for 11 months and yeah, served my time there. I had been working for a year as a police officer before that,
Oh.
and then I went to the service for a year and came back and continued my police job.
Okay.
It was an interesting time. People say that the military service makes boys become men. I don't think like that. I think that like it helps the men come outside from the boys. If you have a manly side inside, it will come out for sure. Whether it stays out or not, that's a different kind of topic. It depends on what you're going to do afterwards, after the service is over. Because like 5 years from the service, if you're doing your thing, you're still the same kind of guy you were before the service. Or
Of course.
maybe you've changed, but yeah, I think like it helps to bring out the man in the boy, not like definitely make a boy become a man. There's a difference.
That's an interesting perspective, because my generation, I was born 87.
Yeah.
And the people in my age group were the first one who weren't mandatory drafted. So after that, it was they shortened down the mandatory period to, I think, 3 months, and they made it like optional. But I wasn't drafted because back then I was a Norwegian citizen, because my mom is from Norway. So none of the countries wanted to have me as a Rambo super soldier in their army, and I was a bit sad. I was waiting for this, because that was a step in my, I watched the same childhood movies as you did as a kid.
Yeah.
So, but I, as I said, I went to Norway instead, worked my ass off. But I saw some people that they came out of that experience as you said, they weren't boys when they went in there. They were just waiting to grow up a bit, and that helped them. But as you said also, for fast forward 5 years after the military service, if you haven't lived that life or disciplined yourself after, it doesn't it doesn't really change your life forever, I would say, right?
But do I think that it's like necessary? I think I'm not the right person to ask that, because I'm working as a police officer. I chose the job. I'm thinking the way anyway. For me, of course, the military service was something that gave me something, not took away a year from my life, for sure. As both of my grandfathers have been fighting in war. So like for me, serving 1 year for my country in a peaceful time is like a walk in the park. Actually, it should be like a piece of cake.
Yes, that's
we had men who had to serve for 25 years, like, and like 100 years ago or so. It was different back then.
Yes, but it's easy to forget the history, right? It's easy to. So keeping that in mind, that you have family and friends close to you that been through that experience, it makes it harder for you to complain about the year in peacetime. Like, but not every person thinks like that.
That is true, of course, yeah.
I read a book recently about the Swedish Karoliner, when Sweden was like a really big nation, going to war with like every country in Europe almost. Some of the soldiers there, they were out, like they left Sweden on some invasion thing there, and they came home 20 years later. 20 years later. And when I hear that, I like, yeah, 20 years. And then you hear the stories about their families being left home. They couldn't, remarry because the church would, they would kill them if they did, because you can't, remarry and stuff like that. So they were suffering. There were plagues roaming Europe. They were like bad harvest years, 3 years in a row. So just being a person a couple hundred years ago was a very, 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 very different experience. And in your country, just not that long ago. I mean, but I think it's dangerous to forget our history. There's a lot of knowledge and wisdom in it.
Yeah, that's so true. And yeah, I feel like a lot of this knowledge comes from the subconscious mind, and we really sometimes we act the way we act because of the past we had, like our grandparents had or something. I'm a little bit of a spiritual guy too, because I believe in those things. That I'd like to believe those things, that what our ancestors did and the way they lived actually affects the way we live our life as well. At least, in a spiritual way or in any other way. It's just too boring to see life through the actual lens we're seeing with our two eyes. There has to be something else going on in the background.
Yes. So how do you, I mean, being a police officer in many ways are the same as, I can draw some connections to being like a social worker, for example, because my point here is that you're being exposed to, let's say you work as a social worker and you deal with, home abuse or drug addictions, social problems. And you do that 8 hours a day for 10 years. it's the worldview you can get from that is that very depressing worldview. And do you get my point here? The point I'm trying to make here. How do you protect yourself from just seeing every person as a drunk criminal or violent person or like all the things you see during a day or saw when you did patrol? Or
we have dark humor.
yes, that's important.
We do silly jokes. Yeah, that helps to keep your mind clear, I think, most of the time. But what I really love about the job and what I felt about myself too, I was an insecure child. I mean, throughout my youth years, teenage years, I didn't feel secure at all. But once I became a police officer, I think it took like 2 or 3 years, the security level really rised up. So when you look at yourself as a action figure, then you would say that the security skill got leveled up.
yes, I like that.
And I see the same with young people coming nowadays, like cadets joining the force. And although we are as I said before, our country is really relatively safe to live in. Young people still grow up quite fast. When they are working on the streets. They see a lot of the negative side of the world, and I think it helps to put things into perspective. And once you see the negative side, you can appreciate the positive side more, for sure.
But I
that's
guess
what happened to me.
It's quite easy to I think the danger with having a job like you have is to lose hope. Like you lose hope over, I wouldn't say humanity, but like I think some people respond very negatively to seeing so much of the darker side of being a person, of what person are capable of doing to other people. That has
that is true. I couldn't agree more. I mean, hope is one thing, but the bad thing is when you become numb.
Yes.
Like you don't feel anymore. Like something bad happens, it doesn't affect you emotionally that way anymore, and you become more or less like a robot. And we have those guys who have been working like 25 years on the streets, and they say, look in my face, and they say that, nothing really impresses me anymore.
Wow. That's sad.
That is sad. But hopefully they find find joy from different things, or like hobbies. Most of the hobbies for a policeman is like photography or fishing or hunting, something doing with being alone in the woods or somewhere else, just not socializing that much.
I get that.
Yeah.
Getting away from people.
That's
yes. Getting away from the people that messes with your worldview. Well, the darkest humor in all the first responders, I would say ambulance drivers. Sometimes when I hear them, I'm like, oh, guys, I'm very raw if I want to, but they are like, it's when I started working as a fireman, we also go on, paramedic duties. When I started, afterwards, when they crack jokes, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? They're very almost evil people, but then I very, very quickly realized that they see so much bad things, like every day. They see people dying all the time. So they are probably also the people that I have the hugest respect for. They say, like, of course, policemen also, you see a lot of bad things. We do too, but
that is true. Yeah, I mean, all the first responders, they do see almost the same things. When there is a big catastrophe going on, or I don't know, car crashes or anything like that, or buildings on fire, then all those services have to be on point, and
Yeah.
they see the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
And the dark humor, well, and the ambulance drivers, they don't ask you if you'd like to listen to their dark humor or not. They just shoot out.
Yeah, but that's they have this ventilation thing. They probably need to have that.
Yeah.
So, but I would understand, like, let's say you don't work as a first responder and you would hear something like that. That wouldn't be that good, I think, because
that would be inappropriate. Yeah.
Yes, but no. How do you remember, like, as a young policeman, first time seeing like really, really nasty things? Like, how did you cope with that? Do you remember that? Was that a shock to you?
It's hard to. I call myself relatively a lucky person, because at least I don't feel like it's affecting my life anymore. But I've seen some, things related to death are things that I will never forget. I think, young children dying or something like that. It's quite awful to see it. For me, as I'm not a father yet, I would say it's maybe easier for a father who is working as a police officer or in the ambulance or rescue team. It would be so much harder. I think they will automatically start thinking about their own children or something like that if something would happen with them. Yeah. So it was easier for me to cope with. But yeah, I think like things related to death are the most serious ones, of course, and you can really get by with drunk people. That's not so hard. But if somebody's dying and there are relatives beside, then those things will stay with you for long periods of time, even if you're just a bystander and doing your job.
Yeah, I would say I think we have a quite similar view on it, but what I found being the hardest part to deal with in the beginning was, of course, seeing someone dying is a very weird, strange experience in the beginning, but dealing with the relatives and seeing the chaos that it creates, like seeing people, their lives are being.
That's true.
Yeah. I felt very useless in the beginning, like stepping into a room, maybe doing some HRL and not succeeding, and family coming and scream. You felt like the most useless person in the universe, and you felt like, what should I do here? It's a very, very bizarre situation to be in. But you mature in that role also, like understanding that, well, do your best. It's hard to do more, and you have the odds against you all the time, most often at least. But also seeing someone who's just lost their entire house and all their belongings, and maybe it's a very bizarre situation to be in, to dealing with things like that. But
people who suffer, they get really personal, and you get them in this way of viewing things, that they are not present.
No.
They don't see things like objectively in that time, and you have to know that. And once you do that, you don't get really like, you don't get angry to them or against them, because it's because of the event happening around.
Yes, right.
Oh.
No, I learned quite fast that sometimes words doesn't really work in certain situations, but small basic human things, like just putting a hand on someone's shoulder, like just trying to calm them down. I've hugged people, or at least they hugged me, and you just have to, okay, like, you know, yeah, you get my point there. It's
body language. Yeah.
yes.
Psychologists also say that how much do we communicate with our words? It's more like 7% or something like that.
Yes.
And the way we talk is more important. It's like, I don't know, 20%, let's say. But all of what's remaining, like 70+%, is our body language.
Yeah.
That's universal, and we have to use it as much as we can.
Yes. But let's say you're out patrolling the streets, or did, and you approach like some violent or potentially aggressive people, and you need to calm the situation down. What's some of the most like rookie mistakes people do? Is it common that you go out too hard or too soft, or like what do you see the new police officers? What's
Well, most of the new police officers, I feel like they come out too soft, too uncertain. That's a problem. Being uncertain.
People can smell that.
Yeah, the body language is not sure, and it's all messed up. I think that's the most common thing happening. Of course, on the other hand, is being too aggressive and taking things like personally, which is one of the worst things one can do as working as a first responder. I think the right answer is right along in the middle. You have to be able to adapt, of course, but not being too aggressive and not being too shy. You have to be like certain, but not over the top. You have to play out the cards just right.
Yes. Yeah, like being confident in your role, carrying that uniform in a confident way, because people can see that. Yeah, you might. I've gotten the best lessons in life competing in martial art, because that's you see something, you see a person that's they try to look as badass and dangerous as possible, but you know, the eyes, they never lie. so
Yeah.
you might see some guy, you know, when I started competing, you just only use the visuals, like how strong does this person look. Some people have, you know, tattoos on their neck, they have scars, they have shaved heads, and I saw that, and that terrified me. I was like, yeah, this person looks like he was just brought out of prison. He's gonna probably kill me. But then you start realizing, like, those are not the most dangerous guys. The ones who no, the ones that I now is super terrified about, the ones they lay and read before they're gonna fight, or they walk around like super, you know, happy to be there and confident, and like they say hi and this is going to be fun, and I'm like, no, this is not going to be it's not going to be fun.
That's so true.
And that have helped me, you know, when I look at a person and try to measure them. I don't care if they have like this big of biceps or tattoos, or that doesn't matter in my head. It's like I'm scared of the calm people, you know, the ones.
But you do have experience already. I mean, when you take a normal person on the street and say who looks more dangerous, you know the answer.
Of course.
It's the guy with the big biceps and tattoos and shaved head.
Yeah.
But I think it's a role they play. It's something that keeps them confident from the outside, but they are inconfident inside.
Yeah, so that's how I think, like, why do you have a need to, you know, have a t-shirt with a pit bull on? Like, what does that try to signal to the world? Like, bad example, but like, I would be more scared about people who don't look like that. But what learned is that those people can be a bit unpredictable, because that insecurity, if you poke at that and trigger that can, you know, manifest itself in many different ways. So people
That is true.
insecure people can be dangerous, especially if they're in group.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
They might do things that maybe they normally wouldn't. They just leash out, and yeah, things might happen. And as you said, in a group, it's really important to separate the leader from the group.
yes,
if you are being a first responder.
yes,
And if you can spot the leader, the group will fade away.
yes, and that's usually quite easy. Sometimes,
Yeah.
because that's going to be the person who stands this close to you, maybe screaming or trying to act tough. I did an episode, solo episode, couple weeks ago about self-defense, and I said, if you find yourself in a situation where, you know, violence is the only option, or a situation where you need to get out of there as fast as possible, like, and if it's multiple people, go for the top dog there, like, because if you just smash him on the throat, or, you know, kick him in the groin or something, and then you just focus all your effort, energy on that person and the rest of the group, you know, the psychological effect that has is quite strong, I would say. But I'm not preaching hitting people, but running is a good self-defense. What kind of system do you lean towards in the police force? Do you have
Well, we can't compare ourselves to, let's say, the USA police.
No.
The system is totally different. We tend to be more like soft, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of talking, less using force.
Yeah.
It has been built up more and more to being communicative, earning the trust of the people around, and it helps out in the way that people on the streets, when they see something go wrong, they will act as well and help the policeman. Yeah. So less physical, more talking. So
yeah, that's
psychology is a big part.
That's probably good. But also, I've been listening, following some podcasts, and, you know, the development in the US after this George Floyd situation, and some states and parts of the US, they're talking about defunding the police.
Well, yeah.
What's your take on defunding the police? How would that is that a good thing, you think?
For me, it sounds stupid.
Yeah. Yes.
Just the phrase of it. Yeah. And not using like choke holes or anything like that. I think we cannot deny police officers using force. It would be, what's the point of that? It's like we tend to use more our words to communicate, but there are certain situations when it's impossible without the use of force.
Yes.
Like we have a lot of drunk people who don't behave, they don't listen to you anyway, aggressors, people who are bad, who are like hurting others, and you have to deal with them too. And the government tells you that you cannot use chokeholds. Like, for example, why? I mean, if the police officer is doing everything rightfully and not overusing force, then why shouldn't it be in the arsenal of, you know, force using weaponry or anything like that? You know?
Like, for someone who's been training grappling for 10 years,
yeah,
like the rear naked choke, you can pacify a person in 4 seconds if you use that properly. But
true.
But of course, this is the conflict I get in my head. People talk about defunding the police. Like, okay, so you're going to live in some, you know, no, my point is, they think like they should have more funds in the police. They should have more time to train the officers. They should have like 10 hours a week where they train hard and, you know, learn how to, in a good way, pacify a person with a chokehold, or, you know, building up the confidence levels in using your own body. Because let's say you get per half a year, you get 2 hours of self-defense training as a police officer. That's quite common in certain states, I've read, in the US. If you don't feel comfortable in your own ability and know how to handle your body or other people, that's going to make you scared. And if a stressful situation appears, a scared person is going to act very differently from someone who's confident. And if you have guns, and if you have tasers, batons, sprays, of course I'm going to use them because I don't. You get my point? Like,
I totally get your point. Our country, I mean, our organization took a step forward, and we now are doing more trainings than we did the year before.
Yeah.
Which is really good, especially for patrol officers.
Yes.
We also had like policemen who got only like, I don't know, maybe 3-4 hours of training a year.
Yes.
Which is
that's the reality.
Really, yeah. It was the reality a couple of years ago, at least. And now they get more, which is, of course, which helps to boost the confidence levels too.
Yes.
Which is really, really necessary.
Yeah.
Because not all our police officers are into martial arts.
No, of course.
They are just regular people doing regular things.
Yeah.
And they have to play the role as a policeman or a policewoman.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I would like for people to just for 1 second think about a situation that could appear. Let's say you have this huge man, like 120 kilos muscles, filled with anabolic steroids and amphetamines, and this guy is having some kind of rage situation, being aggressive, and you need to pacify him. That's not an easy thing to do. Like that's quite a challenge, even for like well-trained people. And imagine like 3, 4, 10 hours of training that year, coping with that situation. I'm not jealous. Let's just put it like that.
No, of course not.
Oh my God.
If possible, we have to deal with those situations with just more police officers.
Yeah.
We can't go there being just 2 of us, but more like 4, maybe 6.
Yeah.
Those are really nasty situations which might come up, and it might happen that you have to deal with this kind of a person alone, or the 2 of us only, because you are far away.
Yes.
And no help is coming towards you. Those situations are really putting things into perspective.
Yes.
Especially, I don't have anything against women being in the police force, but when you're like 150 centimeters tall and you're dealing with such a situation, then the words won't help you out. That's just the reality check.
Yeah, and that's a sensitive topic nowadays.
It is.
We have
I don't want to dwell on for long, but
no, but my take on that is the same from the firefighter perspective. We have females working in our department, and some people, people from that doesn't work there. They're like, well, can she carry a 150 kilo guy outside a burning building? And I'm like, no, but you can't do that either. Like it's only like females are by nature smaller. They have less muscle fibers. They have tinier bones. They are smaller people. Like, but that it's the same. Like if you're a small guy, you're going to have the same problem. So it's just, as a firefighter, fully geared, there's maybe 40, 50 kilos of equipment on you. And if your body weight is 60 kilos, that's going to be hard to, carry other people with that. It's the same for me. So
that is true. And I couldn't agree more, actually. I don't want to say that, God, women can't work on the streets. No, they totally can. I mean, women can speak differently sometimes.
Yes, they have a very different effect.
Yes, they have a different effect. And also against drunk men,
yes.
It's sometimes peaceful to have a women police officer beside you.
Yes.
A calming effect. But we're talking about situations which are like in nature, they don't happen often. It's like, I don't know, once in 1,000 times or something like that, if ever.
Yeah.
So it's, in that way, we can say that we need both.
Yes.
Like we need men and we need women, and women are not, they have to work in the office, and so no, that's just stupid. The times have changed, and we have becoming a police officer in Estonia for women is a rising trend for sure.
Yeah.
And they are working on the streets, and they are really doing a good job. I can't say, but in certain situations, men are better, and in certain ones, women are better. That's just the way it is.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's the same for us in our department. Like, but people are a bit. They don't see the entire spectrum there. Some people like to, yeah, they like to simplify things by saying like, "Can a girl do this or that?"
Yeah.
And try yourself carrying a person that weighs 100 kilos down from a window on a ladder. Like, no, most people on this planet can't do that. So,
and who is unconscious at the same time?
Yeah, exactly. But that's, as you said, it's very rare that happens. And we can't only hire people that are suitable for these rare events that can deal with those, because that it would be really hard to find people who can actually do the job then. Like,
true.
It would be if you cloned me, of course. That would be a good fire department, but we're not there yet. I'm messing with you.
Perfect.
I have been waiting for crack a joke to you also. Like, I was going to write it to you, but I was going to say, like, firefighters, it's good for the police officers to have them, because they also need heroes in life.
I've heard the same sentence, but
reverse,
upside down.
No,
it's so nice to sleep in the bed for a firefighter. We just have to patrol in the car the whole night.
Whoa! Whoa! Too far, brother. No, that's true. It's true. So no, but it's a fun job. I thought when I started, the job was, fire hose, burning buildings.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's that's not what we do. That's very rare.
That's the fun part that you see.
Yeah. That's one in 100. Mostly car crashes. And
have you seen the series Alarm for Cobra 11? It's the German police series.
No.
Well, they crash a lot of cars, they shoot guns and do everything like epic stuff. And I was thinking to myself that, oh my God, those guys have to do a lot of paperwork.
Yes.
Most of the time, a lot of paperwork.
Imagine all the reports.
Oh my God.
And that's also, if you want to know how it is to work as a police officer, maybe you shouldn't watch TV that much. That's
no. That's something that I don't do. I don't watch police movies not so much, or police series or CSI or crime investigation or anything like that. It's just mostly it's science fiction.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're working at that job, you don't need to really watch it on TV later on.
No. So I'm a bit curious, switching topic a bit, but just by following you on Instagram for a while now, you're making Rocky proud, I would say, with your training regiment. So he's the character Rocky is up there looking at you, smiling probably from the clouds.
Hopefully he's still on the ground as long as Sly is living and
yeah, he's living, but the character, I mean, the spirit of Rocky.
Yeah.
What's your
that would be awesome? Yeah.
Your backstory on fitness, health training? Did you do a lot of sports as a kid, or like, because you're not completely you're a bit Übermensch when it comes to training. I just have to say that.
Well, yeah, maybe it seems like that. I mean, I just grew up in the countryside. I didn't really. Well, I was like 7 years old when I was playing soccer for half a year, but then I had asthma. I had breathing problems. Yeah, and I couldn't play sports anymore. I was sick the whole childhood life I had. On the summertime, I was sick with my lungs. I had some kind of illness. I was allergic to different things. I was active, but I was no way sporty at that time. I grew up, I think it was 2005. Those little things that matter, that changed life. I was just sitting in the kitchen, eating my breakfast before school, and I saw a guy doing parkour on the street. I don't know if you know what parkour is.
Yes, I do. Of course I do.
They say it's the art of movement. And I looked at him and I thought that, wow, this guy is doing like Spider-Man stuff.
Yes. Ninja stuff.
I think it was the time when I got hooked and I started to train my body more, running more, climbing, trying to do some kind of flips as well. And then when all this Rocky era came for me, and I was boxing the bag and just doing calisthenics. And it paved the way to become or to go to the police academy. And I just started to lift some more weights and run, and doing the parkour was left beside. I just grew up from it, I think, or I was too scared to do those big things that those big guys did.
Yes.
I was never that confident to do that. No. Something clicked and I said, like, okay, I want to live longer.
Yes.
Although what they do nowadays, it's crazy what a human body can do.
Yes, it is.
When you have YouTube and you can watch those videos, and like, how? It was back then, but I think, and the second time something clicked again was in 2015, like 10 years later. I saw Greg Blitt. Do you know who Greg Blitt is?
Yeah. He died from a train accident. Right?
Yeah, he had just died when I heard about him, and I'm still watching his like videos and reading his quotes. I think
he left a legacy behind him. Yeah,
big legacy. Yeah, and the way he spoke to people, the way he motivated was something unnatural for me. And I started to look more into what I was eating and how I was training, and then the ball started rolling. I started to do silly things like run ultras and do obstacle course racing.
Super silly.
Which seems to be super silly now, but more and more people are getting hooked to it. And it's great to see, even around myself, those who look at my story and look what I do, and I look at them back, they are also changing a bit, like the world is. Or is it just me? Is it maybe because the people I surround myself are doing more and more of those things? It might be this way as well.
I think it's both.
Yeah, it might be both. Yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm still searching for the thing which will hold me back. We had this. I have a friend who is also a police officer. We don't train together. We only get together like maybe once a month, and we compete together.
Mm.
And last year, with all this COVID going around, we had the opportunity in the summertime to travel to Greece, and Greece is a mythological place for us, and we had an ultra running event there. And before the start, I remember him saying that I'm still looking for something that will break me, like mentally, or will keep me back, or that something that I have to try the second time to accomplish. But this event is not one of them.
Wow.
He told it before the start. Well, it was a rough one, but we managed to complete it anyway. He was correct. He's like 8 years older than me, and I have a lot of respect to him. He's seen a little bit more, he's done a little bit more, and he's like some kind of a hero for me. I'm striving to become something like, with the same things he has done. Maybe that magic will rub onto me too over time.
A person with that kind of mentality is a very, very good thing to have close to you, especially when you compete. That's you need heroes in life, and you need older people that's, they've seen things that you haven't really seen yet, experienced things that you haven't really experienced yet, and yeah, I totally get what you're saying there.
Which is really interesting, having heroes. I mean, I was a lucky guy when I grew up, I think. Although I was mostly alone. When I was 13, 14, 15, I had a friend again who was 12 years older than I was. He hung out with me a lot of times. He took me fishing. We put up a basketball, we played basketball and soccer and everything like that. And he was really a sporty guy. He was studying in the university. He was smart too, and he didn't drink. He didn't party. He just saw the life a little differently. And I grew up around him, and it helped me pass by my teenage years too. So I wasn't really a big problem to my parents, I think.
No.
I rarely drink alcohol nowadays too. I mean, I do sometimes, but it has never been an issue. I've never been like that much hungover that I couldn't train the next day, for example.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, that's interesting. And having heroes around, the topic is really interesting because, do you know the Hollywood actor Christopher McDonaghy? Well, I haven't seen many movies about him, but he had this saying. When he was 15 years old, an older guy asked him, "Who is your hero?" He couldn't answer then. He took like 2 weeks and answered him that, my hero is me in 10 years. When he became 25, he was asked the same question, that, "Are you now your hero?" He said that, "Nowhere near. My hero is still 10 years away."
Yes.
And I feel like that's the way to see life, like you're striving for something, even though you can be pretty sure that you will never get there, but still the journey is what matters. And that's what keeps us going, I think.
Yeah, and I think that mentality, that philosophy is that means that you're always going to push yourself, and that means that you're always going to set high standards on yourself and demands and try to live up to them, because that's a very wise way of looking at it, because it's a bit, I think it's a bit dangerous is the wrong word, but just to have other people as your heroes, like don't forget yourself in the calculation, because you need to impress yourself. Like that's the first person you need to impress, I think.
That is true. And sometimes even if you look back and think that, okay, Tommy, you're now 33 years old, right? 32, 33, okay.
Yeah. 33.
Yeah. And would your 23 years old yourself be proud of who you are right now? Do you think backwards too sometimes?
He would be extremely surprised, I think, in a very positive way. He would also be proud. He would be like, I think he would scratch his head and think like, yeah, he would. When I was 23, I was working like a crazy person, and I was drinking quite hard with my friends on the weekends. I lived a quite,
you were living life,
carefree but kind of rough life. This is not something I'm super proud about, but firefighters, we're rough people. There were some bar fights, there were some, just quite wild. Me and my friends, we trained hard, we worked hard, we lived hard, but I became a dad when I was 25, and that of course changed. I've started to calm down. When I was 23, I was quite calm. I didn't party that much, but before that, but 25, things started to really change. And the thing you said there, like, yeah, I need to be a hero for myself, but also for my son, so that it's not hard to stop drinking when you have a kid, not for me at least. So I could easily go a year without drinking alcohol now. It doesn't really, there's more to life than, having fun. I think, at least that kind of fun.
Yeah, that's true.
But
suddenly you're not just taking care of yourself, but somebody else too, which is.
Yeah, and just the thought that this little human might look at you as you looked at Rocky. That's a huge responsibility in that.
That's a romantic way to seeing things, I think. And as people do, they at least as I did, I think I looked up at my father and thought about how he is living his life, and not just what he's telling me, but how he is actually living and acting. What is he doing? How is he as a person? That teaches more to a kid, I think.
Yeah, and that seemed to be the thing that when you talk about parenting with smart people that knows a lot of things about parenting, they're going to tell you that words doesn't mean that much. It's like, it's what they see. It's how you are, how you behave in situations like that. And that makes it quite easy, but also quite, there's a lot of responsibility in that. If I know that every situation I'm in, my son is looking at me, observing me, seeing like, how does dad behave here now? Like, it puts a lot of pressure on you also, because sometimes I just want to also be, of course you have to show them both sides that you're human also, but like, I can't tell my kid not to, not to want to play video games all the time. If I sit with my phone all day long, for example, and like, what I tell him needs to 100% or at least 95 match my own behavior all the time, because
that is true.
My son is now, he's turning 8. He's starting to call me out when I tell him something, and he could like, well, you don't do that. I'm like, doesn't matter. I'm telling you to, But then I'm like, okay.
Doesn't work that way.
No, I can't, send two signals and expect him to, understand what's best for him himself. He's a kid. He doesn't understand that. That's my job to teach him that. So
that's interesting. I had the opportunity to study psychology in the university.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and I remember a topic about the Western people versus the people who live in Asia, for example,
Yes,
and
very
the way
nice.
they see life. And the Western people tend to see life through their own eyes, two eyes. I see, I do, and I think. But the Asian ones, they are more like collective, and they try to see themselves from a third-person view first.
Interesting.
So the way they act in the environment is more important than the things they see with their own two eyes. That separates us from the cultures and the ways we see and we act, I think. So
And that is
really fascinating.
That's a quite big difference. Like that.
Trying to see yourself from the other perspective.
Yes.
While you're in the moment. That's what I'm also trying to do at certain times when I feel like all hectic and caught up in the moment. It's like, how do they view me right now?
Yes. I worked some years with for the municipality. I worked with young people that are unemployed and looking to find a job, and I was in that system. I worked as a coach. Quite interesting job, quite easy job sometimes, because I just told it was usually young guys that were lost and confused. The girls seem to have easier to know what they want to do when they grow up, but many of the guys, it was just looking them in the eyes, being a bit acting almost, and like, what, not yelling at them, but being a bit strict older brother, like, get your act together, you have your entire life in front of you. You're this smart, talented, awesome person. Just do something, and pushing them. Very, very fun. But what I learned working with that for a couple of years is also that some people have a really, almost have like a victim mentality. Like every bad thing that happens to you, there's some dark force working against you. Like some people are brought up like that there's always someone else's fault that bad things happen to you. And my philosophy in life that if you can try to make every bad thing happen to you your own fault, you will be responsible for solving it. So it might not be your fault, but try to think like that. And I confronted people sometimes with their bad luck and everything. And I told them that if I were to place a GoPro in your forehead and record you during an entire day, and we would sit together by the end of the day looking at this, we would both understand why your life isn't, as good as you want it to be, because you probably take 200 bad decisions every day, and you're not aware of it. You don't know how it affects your life, but I could probably do that. Do you want to do that? Like as an experiment? And they're like, well, no, are you kidding? Like, I'm not kidding, because you get my point there. Like
I do.
That
Taking
third
responsibility. Yeah.
That third 3D view there.
It's so hard to get through to people sometimes when you try to talk about that, especially to people who see life through negative lens all the time. Everything else is like, everything around them happening is someone else's fault, not their own.
Yes.
And sometimes the reason they act the way they do is not because of the situation at hand, but it's more because of something else deep inside. Something hasn't been dealt with for years, maybe sadly in some cases, maybe in 50 years, you haven't dealt with the thing you had to do, and you've been carrying it with you the whole life. in a negative way.
Mm.
It's hard to get through to those people sometimes. That's absolutely true. Taking responsibility of things.
I think
not like being too harsh to yourself that I'm doing everything wrong, every other people are doing everything right, and I'm just doing everything wrong, and it's my fault. No, not like that, but just thinking about, contemplating with the fact that maybe there is a part of you that has been doing something wrong. That has to be done. I feel the same way.
I also understand why people, I mean, taking a really, really deep, close look in the mirror, that's a hard thing to do. Especially most people, they know that they have some things about them that aren't, really optimized, to say it in a nice way, but it takes some courage to put up a fight against that. But from my perspective, it's like, that's a worthy challenge. You should embrace that. We all have flaws and bad things about us. Like, they don't necessarily define you as a person. See it as something you can work with, and strive to develop yourself. And I see us as very dynamic creatures. Like, you can
becoming the best version you can.
Yes, that's it.
Working on yourself. That's the thing.
Yes, because it's possible. Like, people have went from the worst. I mean, I like also to tell people that when you have a 19-year-old that tells me, oh, I don't have time to work out. I have to clean my apartment, and like, okay, so, but people have climbed Mount Everest with like fake legs, like benprotes, like, so come on, take a look at humanity and our history and accomplishments. Like, don't tell me that you don't have time to take a walk. Like, don't.
Maybe I'm too strict, but often wise, I don't start to discuss with people who tend to tell me that their life is too hard to change. I feel like they are not ready to see it the way I or somebody else does, and I have to give out so much energy to those who feel like they're stuck and everybody else is at fault because of their problems. And of course, you can talk to them, but do they really listen?
No.
That's the second, question.
That's
they have to become ready, but when it's going to happen, nobody can be for sure.
No, but I think that comes with, as you get older and mature, you start to realize that also, that you can't change people in that sense.
Yeah.
They have to want to change themselves. But especially when I was younger and working with coaching people, I was like, since I saw what working out, taking responsibility, doing things has done to me. Of course, I was like a person who, the person who's seen a really good movie and tells every person they meet that you need to watch this movie. It's like the best movie in the world. Like, see it now. And they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
People are like that. They're not going to watch the movie. Like,
no.
But as a young man, high on life, high on change, seeing that you can grow and develop yourself, you are like this Don Quixote character screaming like to the world, like, follow me, do this, because you felt the change. You understood, like, truly, that you can upgrade yourself. And that's a strong realization to get as a man and a woman. Like, oh my God, I can upgrade this meat avatar. I can unlock new functions. And also in my software up here, the brain, I can I can install new programs, I can install new insights, wisdom.
I can live.
Yes, yes,
It's really possible. I can live.
yes.
Why shouldn't I? And coming back to the film topic, I mean, yeah. Wouldn't you like to be older and just when you can't move that much anymore and maybe your brain is not functioning that well anymore, just to sit at the fireplace and think back that, well, I developed quite a great movie. I would like to watch it again.
Yes, yes. And in that movie, you're not going to be the entire movie. What we like as people also, we like the hero's journey. We like to see someone sitting as a couch potato, having no drive, no hope. We love stories like that, and seeing that person just waking up and start to walk. They leave the Shire, they find Gandalf, they find Aragon, they start to walk with the heroes, and they unlock their skills. And they the first Spider-Man movie, when he wakes up, Spider-Man is Peter Parker is a fun character because he's a bit of a loser in the beginning of the movie. People bully him, and they he lives with his grandparents, and he had quite a hard life. Seeing someone just, you remember the fight scene in the school when he's like, he's seeing things in slow motion. That's like, oh yes, smash. We like to see that. But that's also some people that approach me that know that Tommy might be able to inspire me or something. They're like, if it comes to training or something, they are very shy and very like, they don't understand that the coolest thing that I know is to see someone just taking the first steps. It's inspire me like crazy, because I'm going to give you an example there. New people at the gym, they believe that the big buff dude in the corner, he's looking down on them. He thinks they're weaklings. He thinks that they shouldn't be there. Usually the big guy in the corner, he looks with them with respect and thinks like, oh my God, you have a fun journey in front of you, my friend. I used to be just like you, standing there in the corner with my tiny arms, trying to look as if I know what I'm doing. Like, we can all relate to that guy. So, but of course, being that guy it's hard.
If you could only stick to it. If you could only stick to it longer.
Yes. I mean, when I started going to the gym, I was maybe 22 or something. It was a powerlifting gym. And it was loud music. It was, the testosterone levels. Yes, the testosterone levels in that. If you were a woman stepped into that gym, the testosterone level could probably make you pregnant just being in there. It was rough. People were like, if you forgot to, take the plates away or anything, like this big alpha dude approached you and like, what the fuck are you doing? So, but that was, I wouldn't recommend that to people, but it's like going through fire in a way. Side tracks there, but I have an idea here. Let's take 5 minutes, stretch our legs, and refill the fluids in our body. And
let's do it.
I'm going to send you another link when we. Okay.
Yeah, 5 minutes. Boom, and we are alive.
Siim Sibrits.
Siim Sibrits. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. How was the break?
It was refreshing.
Yes. Good. We have covered. We talked about Help me out here.
We talked about a lot of things, actually. We did. I mean,
yes.
The last part was about, I think, being a father was the topic, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are the smart one in this duo here, so good.
It just came into my mind.
Yes. No, I realized also I wanted to say this in the beginning. After I did some research on your motherland there, I felt a very, very strong need to come visit. So after this pandemic thing, can't I
You
come?
are welcome, my brother.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be so nice. There's a lot of gems in Europe that I would like to visit, but I saw also you have a lot of old buildings left, like castles and walls and like.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, that's
one of the biggest is in my hometown, which is like 4 kilometers away right now. One of the biggest castles, I think, or forts, and the ruins of it. One can only imagine what the life was like 900 years ago in there, 1,000 years ago. And the house I'm currently in at my parents' place was also built in 1864.
Oh, wow.
So quite an old one, yeah.
One of the first things that I think about when I visit forts is that if you ask yourself the question, like, how would it be to live here? The first thing that pops into my head is cold. It must have been very, very cold. Like these thick walls, and how do you heat up like a building like this? And
actually, maybe the temperature was more like stable. It's like living in a cave. In the summertime, it's not hot. In the wintertime, it's not getting that cold. We don't know.
No, but I also.
But it was cold for a human being to be in a t-shirt for sure.
Yes, but maybe it evens out because people were 100 times tougher back then also.
Yeah, they had to be.
Of course they had to
be like wild animals.
Yes. I think that's something I've been talking to in this podcast series quite some times now. Like just 100 years ago, you could take take a random person from the street, and that person would be suited for Navy SEALs now, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Don't you think so?
That is true.
Like imagine your
ancestors.
Scares me
too, a little bit, actually.
Yes.
It's scary too. What if something goes wrong, like totally wrong, and we have to live like this again? What will happen to the humankind? We have to toughen up, people.
97% of the population would probably die the first 2 days.
I think Albert Einstein was the one who said that we don't know with what weapons people will fight in World War III.
Stones and rocks.
We are back to stones and rocks in World War IV. Yeah.
Stones, sticks, and rocks or something. Yeah. And the question you should ask yourself then is, who do you want to be when that happens? You want to be Rocky, of course.
Always be ready.
Yes.
To hard things in life happening. That's I think one of the parts of why I strive to become stronger physically and mentally. Suffering a little bit on the way. It's because of the hardship that my life may throw at you at times. Yep.
But that is, how common do you think it is to have that mentality and that mindset nowadays? Like, just from my perspective in Sweden, not that common.
It's scary. It's not that common in Estonia too. No. We have really tough people, like really, really tough ones, but most of the times people don't think about life in general in a way that it may throw at you things that you're not expecting.
No.
and yeah, that's scary a little bit.
It is, and I mean, many people also think that when shit hits the fan in whatever format, someone will probably come and save me. And I'm thinking like this, like, okay, who is that person, or who are those? I'm a firefighter, you're a police officer. Like, who's going to come and save you? So
Nobody.
no. And that's that also, I think the job you have makes you think differently from other people also. Like, for you, it comes natural to be prepared for situations that it, you know, requires everything from you. But as a normal person, I don't think, why would you think like that? I don't think life forces you to think like that. So then we take the easy, comfortable road. I don't know.
We don't try to dwell on this thought long, because it's a hard topic to think about, and maybe it puts too much pressure on yourself when you try to think that, am I really able to take care of myself and my family when things get hard?
Yeah.
And yeah, the real answer is that everybody is on their own, actually, in hardship. If things get really wrong, then even police and firefighters don't get to you, probably.
No.
You have to be strong enough to be able to cope with things on yourself. Yeah.
For the last couple of years, or yeah, more intensely, for reasons I don't want to think about, but the government sends out flyers, like almost begging, asking people to at least have food home so they can last like for 72 hours. Or like they recommend this kit with, like, yeah, you should have candles, blankets, some heat source, canned food, whatever. And in my head, also growing up on the countryside, when I was a kid, sometimes the power went down and it was away for like 6-7 days in the winter. So in my head, like, of course you have food home. Like, of course you need to have the ability to, you know, heat up your home at some other method, or you know. But why would you think like that if you were brought up in the city, for example, where you have access to everything 24/7? You know, the food store is down there, blah 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 blah. Of course
you shouldn't. I mean you should, maybe, but
of course, yeah,
most of the time, it's like 99.9% of the time, shit doesn't hit the fan that much.
No.
But hopefully you have a place to go when they start going down. I think the political side of it has been quite the same in Estonia too, and the firefighters or the rescue team, they made a campaign where they said that people should have something at home for food if shit hits the fan, and then candles, and as you said. And when the COVID hit, first time people started to think this way.
Yes.
So it had a positive effect in that manner. It's probably fading away again when everything eases down, but yeah, sometimes things have to get hard for right things to fall in place, to teach people what matters.
I share that opinion, because but we humans, we also like to forget. We're quite good at forgetting things quite fast. We want the new good thing again, so we kind of people have a hard time learning. That includes me and you also, of course. But it became quite clear to the world, I think, that we need to be a bit more on our toes and ready for external things to come and complicate our lives. So I think it's been a good lesson for people, but my only hope is that let's not forget too fast, like
yeah.
And all the crazy preppers, because that's also a quite growing huge community, and I'm a bit of a prepper myself, if you were to but that's just my way of thinking, upbringing. But some people, they have 8 samurai swords hanging at home waiting for the next zombie apocalypse, and they have bug out bags on their back, ready to hit the forest, and like they have food for 8 years at home, like
they are like waiting for it. It's like,
yes.
when it's going to happen? I'm so ready. I just finished Walking Dead, and I would like to live like that.
But what is?
We are also,
yeah.
We also would like to see the end, when it's going to end. Like, as long as it ends, it's all right. I can play that game for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month. But nobody wants to live like that for like years. No, there is no finish line.
When I was younger, me and my friends, we had this romantic, like, oh, imagine living in a post-apocalyptic world, just being able to go to the stores, take whatever you want, the movie version. But if you think about that, like living like that also means that you're probably most likely going to die if you get like an infection in your foot or something. Like, imagine giving childbirth during those circumstances. Like, life would be so miserable, and you would like be such a, yes, you get my point there. Like, no.
Yeah, I do.
You don't want to live like that. Living in a zombie world for 2 days, yeah, that would be quite awesome to experience, like see what you're made of. But in the long run, no. That would be...
I don't want to come back to the COVID topic, but what you can see, an infection, it starts, and you don't know when it's going to stop.
No.
You can like think that, okay, maybe 2-3 years, but you're not certain. You cannot be.
No.
And life has changed in that way. It's the first time in our lives then when we see that it's not normal anymore.
Yes. Yes. And I was at the bookstore a couple of weeks ago, and a lady there were like, she was talking about how this messed with our lives, and this COVID talk. And I didn't really think it through. So she asked me how I felt, and I was like, I've read too many books about World War II and the occupations by Germans to complain. That was my spontaneous thought and reaction to it. And that perspective is what being a bit like reading up on the history, studying it, like that it helps me to always have something to put in perspective, like, because what does it help me to tell people every time I meet them that this is a very, very hard, difficult thing to be in? Like, I can't see how that helps me, like, personally, to deal with this. Yes, it's hard, it's different. Let's acknowledge all these negative things and move from there. Like, yeah, this is the new reality we're in. I can't go to the bars, blah, blah, blah. Like,
we all know that. What are we going to do about it? It's the real question.
But yeah, to just wrap up that COVID section there, but how have the restrictions been in your country? Like, did you go out hard, or from what I understood, you
We went out pretty hard in the beginning. I think we closed our borders in, I think it was the end of March.
Yeah.
Or the beginning of April. We had like COVID patrols, and we still do have COVID patrols, but we do not have curfew. Our southern neighbors, Latvians, do have curfew, or at least they had on the New Year's Eve and in Christmas time. But still, those okay, you can go to the not bars, but like cafeteria until 10 p.m. Then they are closed.
Yeah.
People have to wear masks when in public transport or when in magazines. But all in all, life actually, for me, as quite an introvert and doing my thing, it hasn't changed a lot. I mean, places that I visited are still open. You can go to the cinema.
You have the cinemas open.
Cinemas are open, yeah, and
I missed that.
gyms are open.
Yeah.
But actually, because of the COVID situation, there aren't any good movies coming from the cinemas, or
no.
It's a bit different. Not much has changed. I think for an entrepreneur or somebody who is working in tourism, that's really hard.
Yes.
For them, it's really hard.
Yes.
So I wouldn't say it has come easy in any way. Just for me, for my lifestyle as being a police officer, not much has changed.
No.
Yeah.
No. I would say it's the same for me. Also, I think it's plays a huge part where you live also. Like, if you live in a big city, your lifestyle probably revolves a lot around experiencing the city and the pulse, the people, like everything like that. So when things starts to shut down around that, of course you're going to sit in a small shoebox, which is your expensive apartment, and
that's right. Yeah.
Don't know what to do. Here it's like I have the nature 20 meters outside of my apartment. So and I thought I was more extroverted than I was, but that was probably connected to the lifestyle. But now for a couple of months, I worked from home. I only spend time with like closest friends and family, and that lifestyle I like that. So it has given me some important perspectives, I think.
I think, and we have to have both,
yeah.
The extrovert style for living and the introvert too.
Yeah,
it keeps. We are still social animals.
Yes,
as human beings. No,
yes,
for sure.
Good, but we slowly but surely need to wrap this up. But I have just a couple of questions before we do that.
Go on.
Pretend that I'm an 18-year-old guy or girl, and I have a thought that, working as a police officer would probably, I find that a bit interesting, but also a bit scary, because what kind of advice would you give to like a young person aspiring to work in the field you do, like some tips and tricks or
there has to be an inner drive in the way that you have to have mindset of doing things right. You don't have to be all the time lawful, but you have to have something inside that tells you that things can be right and things can be wrong. And if you want to grow up quite quickly and see the other side of the life as well, and don't mind losing yourself inside into it for a couple of years, then then I think it's the right choice. But you've got to stick to the gut feeling. And if it feels right, continue doing it. If it feels wrong, no shame about it. One of the biggest lies I told myself, I think, when I was younger, was that if I didn't continue my studies, or if I didn't went working right after high school, that would mean the end of my life. That's just BS. I would call bullshit, because you can take a year or two if you're not sure what you would like to do, and at the same time you can totally change your profession as well. We change as human beings, but yeah, if you have the feeling that you would like to wear a uniform a year or two and see what it's like to be a police officer, then of course you can start being a voluntary police officer too. That's maybe the best road to experience the first steps in the police organization. That's what a lot of young people do nowadays in Estonia.
And what that probably differs a bit from country to country, but what kind of tasks would a volunteer police officer be doing?
Yeah, in Estonia it's the same as a regular police officer. They don't give out fines, but they can still do anything else. If they study long enough, they get their skill set better. They can drive the police cars. They have all the equipment, the uniform, the rights. It's similar to a real police officer, really. Yeah, we have a lot of voluntary police officers working on our field.
Wow, that's
it's
very
it's a growing business. Yeah,
we don't have that that in Sweden. We have volunteer firemen, but not police officers. I think
we have those too.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And I think also like that perspective you gain from working with something like that, even if you find out like, okay, this isn't really for me, that perspective I think is going to help you to whatever career you choose afterwards. Like whatever you do in life, you're going to have some benefits from that. Okay, so next question.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Now I'm an 18-year-old guy, girl. I've started realizing, looking myself in the mirror, that things are starting to, it doesn't look that well, and I'm tired all the time. I'm this, and I also made myself like a New Year's resolution that maybe I should try to work out. Like I need to start moving. How would you? What's your take on that? You're talking to a newbie here that haven't really done this before, like because it's easy to start, but most people fail and they don't stick to it. Like
there is so much. Yeah, there is so much to tell about it. I think it was easier for me as a teenager because all of this Facebook and Instagram stuff just did not happen. There wasn't any of that in that manner. You have to be able to visualize the words. Visualizing is a big thing, and at the same time you have to stick to it, and if possible stay away from all those I would say like Instagram posts which show you the athletic guys and the 60 days abs and 60 whatever
quick fixes
changes that the body quick fixes. It doesn't work like that. The real world is a little bit different. Just try to be honest to yourself and do it through love. And if you are able to do it that way, you will love doing it anyway. And Yeah, you don't have to start like one from 0 to 100. I didn't. Just try to do like daily something like half an hour push-ups, sit-ups,
Yeah,
just
right.
to get the use of it. Yeah, and in the years and upcoming months and time, you will eventually get to the point where you will even beat others and be able to do more and more and more. I'm still finding out new things about myself that I did not know that existed.
Yes.
And I'm on my way. I'm just pretty sure that it's the beginning of something, not the end.
It's
Been on this road already for 15 years, so
it's the tutorial.
still in the beginning.
The tutorial is done now.
The
Maybe.
tutorial is done. Now it's time to play the game.
Yes, yes.
It
No.
is.
I think many people, as you said, they go out, they have this, maybe they have a quite passive lifestyle and they dream about, I need to start running, hit the gym, eat protein powder, I need to have new shoes and everything. Like, so it becomes this insanely high mountain that you need to climb. And I usually tell people, like, how about taking a walk in the beginning? Just take a walk every day. So, the pulse get up and some people, this is how the brain works. Then you feel like, but that's not what I want. And my thought is like, well, now you're not moving at all. So taking a walk and doing 5 push-ups, that's like 3,000% better than what you're doing now. So instead of like, because you can create this grandiose vision of yourself and that becomes so big. So you're scared of starting, because do you get my train of thought there? Like, so, I mean,
Try to first like get to sticking to something.
Yes.
Like as you said, walking. Just walk, but not like 2 weeks, but start walking like every day and
Yes.
make it a habit.
Yes.
Once you make it a habit,
yes,
everything starts to bloom in a way you've never imagined. Yeah.
And I mean, 5 push-ups, that might sound silly, but 5 push-ups can be 50 push-ups. Like, you start there. It's like a ladder. It's like deciding every day that you were going to do something, at least something physical. Doesn't really matter in the beginning, if you ask me. Like, just half an hour, and that half an hour will probably grow when you start feeling the benefits from moving, and
Mm-hmm. Make it playful for yourself.
Yes. Good. What else? Then we have the police thing, we have the workout thing, and now I'm interested in the mental aspect here. How can I become like a samurai warrior? How can I become like? How can I have this David Goggins mindset that you have?
Ooh, I don't. Having the David Goggins mindset is probably the biggest thing that I'm faking to myself at first.
Yes, of course.
Like you try to start to believe it yourself by living the lifestyle, at least touching the lifestyle a little bit.
And what is that? What is that lifestyle?
David's lifestyle is like never-ending business. It's like no finish line, no days off, no excuses. He just does what he does, like a machine.
Yes.
As he tells himself that he hasn't always been like that.
No.
It took a TV show for him to change his whole life. Like little things, the little things that matter all the time. One of the biggest compliments I've ever given was by a young police officer. He was first a voluntary police officer and went to the gym with me, and we worked out and we had fun, and he was a great guy. He came to the police force and went to the police academy, and we had a police party. And policemen do party quite hard. They go out like firefighters, I think, like loud and crazy and a lot of alcohol and stuff. And he was quite drunk, but Estonians sometimes need to have a little bit of alcohol in their blood
to open up
before they to open up. Yep. And he pulled me aside and he told me that I was the reason he went to the police school, and I was like, shit, that was the biggest thing ever somebody has told me. So when you're on this road to greatness or the road to yourself, then yeah, some people will hang around and some people will be inspired, and you will be inspired by others too. So that's great.
Yeah, that's a good example there. And I can also, like, if I step into your Instagram account, for example, you look like a machine. I'm going to be completely honest with you. And if you start like looking at the post, what you do at the gym, and there's some picture with you with like a machine gun, and like, okay, this person is like a real life Terminator. So what you see then is like, you see the product of 10 years of hard work, and that some people, they see that and they can't, that can be very hard to relate to. Do you get what I'm saying? So you see, you see this guy that accomplished all these things with himself, and like, oh, I could never be like that, or blah blah blah. But I have a thought there also, like, you should use that as inspiration. It's people need to remind themselves that, for example, you see this David Goggins guy. Never in your wildest imagination could you imagine that he used to, you know, be depressed, fat, worked a shitty job that he hated for years. And our brains kind of in some way trick us that, yeah, this person has probably always been like this. He was born this way. And
that is true. Actually, I feel like that's the mistake I make.
Yeah,
it's like a lot of people do the same mistake, that they try to show the better life or the better side of their life. The actually is that when it comes to ambition, there are a lot of lonely hours.
Yes.
A lot of work has been put in, but you don't show it, or should you? I mean, I should, maybe that's more authentic, and that's what David is also doing, I think, with his book, trying to open up the closet so people can see inside.
Yeah.
It's like, it makes you really vulnerable, but it's really necessary to be authentic and to get people to listen to you.
Yeah, and that's for us.
Otherwise,
guys,
it seems like you're a Terminator.
Yeah, but also, like, for us guys in uniforms, people are usually scared of, you know, showing vulnerability, showing, you know, the other side of it. But I come to realize, the older I get, that, okay, if that scares me so much, you know, just telling someone that I'm not feeling super well today, I have some anxiety or whatever it might be, you know, human emotions. We guys shouldn't talk about that. So I've come to realize that if that scares me that much, and if it's so hard for me to do that, isn't that something I should try to become better at if I want to develop myself? Like,
that's totally true. Yeah.
I mean, there comes a point in a man's life, if I talk about myself here, I don't find it that intimidating to run into a burning building anymore. Okay, check. But I find it hard to, you know, tell someone if I don't feel that well. Well, that's a big hole in my armor then. Like, shouldn't you investigate that part a bit? Like, do you get what I'm trying to?
I totally get you. I think,
but it doesn't come naturally.
Yeah, it makes you vulnerable, but it's really healthy to be opened up. I'm quite opened up, although as Estonians are, they don't show emotions that well. But I mean, I'm totally okay with the fact that I'm not like happy with my life all the time, or I feel depression often wise. That's something that I fight with like weekly.
Yeah.
But opening up is a big thing. Yeah. And people tend to like more if you are open to them.
I think it's quite simple. Why? Because then you can relate. You can mirror yourself. If everything you see is a Rambo character, it's quite hard for a normal person to relate to that person. So, but if the Rambo character also said, yeah, you know, I haven't always been a Rambo. I used to be a lazy video game nerd, and I sometimes struggle with depression, anxiety, you know, like all of the other people on this planet. And you're like, oh, you're like me. Oh, you're made of flesh and bones and blood, and you know, but that I struggle with that a lot. You know, showing weakness. It's been it wasn't something that when I grew up.
I sometimes cry like a baby.
Yeah, me too. When I watch this, if I'm in a really weird mood and I feel need to, you know, let out some steam, I like to watch these soldier homecoming videos. Have you seen those?
So you like to make yourself even more sad.
But it feels good afterwards.
I feel you. Sometimes you feel sadness inside and you just want to listen to sad music.
Yeah, you want more sadness.
You want more sadness into your life. What the
fuck? This song is about me. No, it's not, but it's you unique snowflake. You're not the first person who experienced sadness in your life, so
but you still can, although you're not the first one.
Yeah.
No,
I try.
Human emotions.
I try to remind myself of this. Like, let's say if a close friend approaches me, opens up and tells me like, Tommy, life is quite shitty right now. I don't feel that well, whatever it might be. If a person does that to me, how do I like instinctively respond to that? My instinct is to, you know, I don't judge that person. I don't put any values in that. I think like, okay, come here, let's talk about it, whatever. What I need to remind myself about is that chances are, Tommy, that people will think like that if you approach them with the same thing. Like, is that too much to you know, ask? No, you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But we're so scared to, you know, open up ourselves. So but usually we have no problems when other people do it, and that doesn't really, that calculation doesn't really fly, right?
Why don't we act like we feel when others do act like this? It's like, it's hard to tell. Yeah.
But
we don't judge people like that.
No,
mostly don't.
No, but you're super scared that people will do it to you if you just flinch 1 inch, show some insecurity, like, oh,
show some weakness.
No, don't do that.
Don't you dare to show some weakness.
No. But, no, I think that's
something to learn.
It is, and it's also, I think our generation is starting a bit to soften things out, because in Sweden you don't really, I think it's very, all the Nordic countries up here, this entire region we're in, you don't really talk about, you know, emotions and stuff like that, if you're a dude, at least. But this
it's starting to change.
Yeah. But this has been a very, very rewarding conversation for me to have, and I have a lot of respect for you and your way of thinking and approaching life, and I find it very inspiring. So
thank you, my friend.
Just for myself, it's been a pleasure talking to you. across borders,
been,
across other countries. Like, we're not that different, right?
Having our first conversation through podcast is something new, and it has been inspiring for me too. I'm always fascinated by people who think deeply, who are not like shallow thinking, shallow talking, and who go deep into conversation. It's really rewarding on both sides, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So let's do this again. And somewhere near in the future, I'm going to pack my backpack and I'm going to bring the microphones, and let's do the third episode live. No, not live, but on site in Estonia.
That would be perfect. I will bring you to my home, to the countryside, and we will make a bonfire.
That would be a huge honor. And of course, you're any time of the week welcome to Sweden. When I get my new house, you will also have like a tiny guest house and a home gym that I can shove you. You can live in the home gym with the weights.
That's enough. Give me some weights and the bench, and I can sleep there.
Good. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.